services, specials, and coupons by clicking their icon on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome into the WTIM information station. My name is Tim Zalabak. Time now for the WTIM morning show. Thank you so much to our live stream sponsors, Landmark of Taylorville and People's Bank and Trust. I got Valerie Belusco on the line with me today. She's with the University of Illinois Extension. She's the Community and Economic Development Educator. How are you doing today, Valerie?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. You sound great on our end. We really appreciate you being in the studio with us today. We were talking before the break because you've been talking with some local cities, and you guys are talking community plans, and that's your bread and butter right there. What does all that mean?
Well, community plans are something that a lot of small communities typically overlook or do and then put up on the shelf. And so I am trying to reinvigorate interest in this because there's a need and a purpose and a reason why you should have a community plan and why it should always be out and kind of on your mind. So recently I was trying to explain this to someone, and I was mentioning that football season has officially started this week. Official practices can start this week. And I said, if a freshman starts practicing, probably going to have goals by the time they're senior, right? Well, we got to list those goals. We got to figure out what those goals are, how we're going to get there. If you want to be a top player by the time you're a senior, what are you going to do to get there? And break it down into little steps. And I said, community plans are absolutely no different. It's just on a much bigger scale.
Sure. Okay, that makes a lot of sense there. And how are you going to know where you're going if you don't have a roadmap ahead of you? So I feel like that is the big first step, but it seems hard to start that. Where do you start with something like this?
Talking to people. First, you really have to get the community leadership on board and engaged. And so what I always tell them is, listen, if you want to go after grants and funding, you have to have a community plan because grants aren't something that you can just willy-nilly apply for. Yes, you can, but these days grants are actually pretty expensive to do. So many grants require engineering costs up front. So you really have to have a plan as to when are our projects, when are we going to need to look at them, as far as when are we going to need to start them, when is funding available, and what kind of steps do we have to take in order to make sure that we qualify to apply for that grant. Because it's not something that you can just, we need a grant for this, we're going to pull it up, search a grant, and apply for it. It unfortunately just doesn't work that way. And so getting communities to understand that and the importance of a community plan from that aspect is always where I start first. Okay. But then we have other little steps.
I'm sure there's plenty of little steps. Let's get into those.
So you've got to really involve your community. Because if elected officials have a plan, that's wonderful. But if they're not letting the community participate in that plan, they're going to have pushback. It's kind of like the parent-teenager relationship, right? If the plan isn't understood, if they don't feel like they're an important part of the plan, the teenager is automatically going to push back. And so it's so important to involve them and let them participate and hear their voice and hear what their thoughts are on the plan.
That sounds like a pretty important piece there. So many people in a community. How do you get the pulse of what the community is feeling? And of course, with any decision, there's going to be people that disagree. But how are you doing that right now? Trying to get a true sense of what the community needs.
Well, so this is where U of I Extension really, really excels. We can work with communities to create different types of surveys. We can do it online, mail surveys. We're even kind of exploring options for like text surveys, things like that, where you can really target different groups of the community. So let's say you want to target groups that are business owners, and you want to know what their successes are and what their future concerns are. So we can kind of measure that through the survey platforms that we have, and then use that data to help us kind of figure out, well, how do we need to address these things? What are our priorities? You can also do that for people that live in your community. So what are their concerns? People that own houses versus people that are renters. Parents for what's happening in the school and how is the school really working with the community on the community plan. So there's lots of different things and types of surveys that we can have, but it's all about extrapolating the kind of data that's needed in order to really figure out how a community can and should move forward.
Sure. Yeah. What a process that must be to create these surveys for different community groups. You said business owners, and then the different types of questions you would ask them. What's another group of individuals that's kind of lumped together in a community that you can think of?
Well, you know what? I think so often, I would say young adults and youth
Mm.
are really overlooked. We make a lot of assumptions about the younger generations. They don't want to be here. Well, is anybody asking why they don't want to be here? Why don't you want to be here in 20 years? And maybe it's just that they don't understand all of the wonderful benefits the community has, just because sometimes at a younger age, you don't really understand, what a small community can offer. Or maybe it's something that you really need to think about and say, wow, these younger generations are saying these are things that we are absolutely like must haves in order for us to stay here. And then try to see how that can be worked into the functionality of the community plan so that you can make sure that you're not, losing everyone as soon as they come of age and get to figure out where they're going to live later.
Yeah, what an interesting little problem that is creating here. You see oftentimes in smaller rural towns, it's the demographic of that 18 to 24 age range is it's often very small and definitely not targeted for, different types of activities going on around town. So what an interesting thing you bring up there. And what do they talk about? What do they talk about that their community doesn't have that causes them to move away?
Well, you know what? I've talked to so many young adults,
Mm,
and it seems like every community is a little bit different. Some young adults really say, "Listen, this community doesn't have any outdoor recreational activities
mm,
that I find important." When we live out here, so a lot of people call it the middle of nowhere. One of the things we have is absolute beauty out here. It is so beautiful. It is so peaceful, and it is kind of secluded and serene. But sometimes we don't have places for visitors or youngsters to go and take advantage of that. So that could mean hiking trails. That could mean boating and fishing. That could mean bike trails, horse trails. You know, I'm kind of older now, but I know there's like kids that like to do BMX and
mm.
skateboard and, those kind of things. They really enjoy outdoor activities. And if you don't have a place for them to be able to participate in that, that can be a big hindrance for them to want to live here.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned appreciating the beauty is also something that kind of comes with age. So that's why you got to have that a hiking trail or a frisbee golf course. For those of you who don't know frisbee
Yep.
golf, we have one of those in Taylorville. I love it, but you don't see one of those in every community. So we're very lucky to have that here. So wow, so outdoor activities and it often falls pretty low on the list of things for cities to take care of, though I feel.
Oh, 100%. I think a lot of cities don't really understand the importance of that.
Mm,
When you look at the next generation up, when you look at young parents, they really want things to do with their kids, and that doesn't always mean a park. Sometimes it means a park, but sometimes it means, well, where can I take my kids out and go kayaking,
mm,
or where can I take my kids out just to enjoy nature and kind of see the different kinds of wildflowers and things like that we have growing that's native to Illinois. If you don't have land, if you're not a farmer or a rancher and you don't have land, then you don't have access to those things.
right.
And so making sure people have access to the beauty so they can enjoy it and really understand what makes this community and this area so great is incredibly important.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you got to be able to take care of and be able to look at the beauty, and definitely getting the younger ages is going to help out these cities. Trying to keep that keep their rates of the youth in town. I have a good feeling about that. Valerie, we're going to take our first short little break here. You're listening to the WTIM morning show. I got Valerie Belusco on the line. She's with the University of Illinois Extension as a community and economic development educator. We're talking about community plans and how you can get them started and why you need it. We're going to take a short little break. We'll be right back here on the WTIM morning show.
Your information station, WTIM.
The Miller Media Group is currently accepting applications from local nonprofit organizations to be featured in our monthly Community Spotlight campaign, sponsored exclusively by TCCU. If your nonprofit organization wants featured, complete the application form, which is available by calling our business office at 824-3395, or request it by sending an email to adminassst@randyradio.com, or find it by clicking the Community Spotlight application form icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Completed applications are being accepted through August 31st. Let's spotlight your nonprofit thanks to TCCU.
The WTIM Swap Shop has gone virtual. Now you can list your items to buy, sell, trade, or give away absolutely free by posting them online. Just click on the Swap Shop icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Then click Create Account to create your free account. Complete the fields and hit Submit. Once your items are approved by station staff, they'll automatically show up on the Swap Shop page on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Yes, the WTIM Swap Shop is now online and still free. Check it out today.
Chip Flory here, inviting you to join the conversation as we tackle the current issues of agriculture every weekday morning at 10:06 on the Talk of Central Illinois, News Talk WTIM. I host AgriTalk, the nation's longest-running interview show dedicated to discussing agriculture issues with the newsmakers and include you in the conversation via our toll-free number. We're here weekdays mornings at 10:06. We are AgriTalk.
This is Dwayne Wheeler, the police chief of the city of Taylorville. As a law enforcement officer, I've seen the impact that depression and suicide have on many people. Many times, those contemplating suicide endure considerable suffering and distress, but there is help. If you feel depressed or lonely, there are many resources to help you. You can call a trusted relative, friend, or minister, or call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That is 1-800-273-TALK. All of us are here to help you. Thank you.
The Shelby County Economic Development Corporation aims to foster, promote, and stimulate economic development, from keeping existing industry and retail businesses successful and thriving to attracting new investment in Shelby County. The Shelby County Economic Development Corporation is here to help your business grow. It also sponsors job fairs to fill positions at existing employers and encourages future entrepreneurs in the Shelby County CEO program. Find out more on the Shelby County Economic Development Corporation by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Sign up for People's Bank and Trust Save by Spending Roundup program, and they'll round up your purchases to the next dollar, then transfer that change to your savings account. It's as easy as shop, enjoy, and save. Get details by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Jeff Robinson from Advanced Title. Whether selling your home on your own or through your local realtor, please give us a call at 824-8007 for all your title work needs.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM information station. My name is Tim Zalabak. Time now to continue the WTIM morning show. Thank you so much to our live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville. I got Valerie Belusco on the line right now. She's with the University of Illinois Extension Office. She's a community and economic development educator. We've been talking about some community planning, what it takes to get communities up and started, that you need a plan. And we're talking about the youth of these communities and how slightly those numbers are starting to fall off because maybe they don't have the resources that they want in town. Valerie, do we still got you on the line here?
Oh, we sure do.
Amazing. You sound great. So let's get right back into it. You know, we were talking about a human aspect needing to be integrated into your process of community planning. Explain that to me.
So many communities, when they think of community plan, they really think of it as an economic development plan or as an infrastructure plan. You know, we're always on roads and bridges. But it's really so much more than that. If you want a successful community, building that has two sides. It has the economic side, the infrastructure side, and then it also has the social side. And so when I say that I work in community and economic development, the community side is really the social side. And that is incredibly important to building a healthy community and an incredibly important part to make sure that you have addressed in your community plan.
Sure. Yeah. So when you say the social side of things, I mean, do you mean, like you said, like outdoor park areas and restaurants and meeting places like that?
So you definitely want that, but you also want to engage the organizations that you have in your community. Kind of know what the temperature of those organizations are. I hear so often people say, "Well, we don't have the numbers anymore of people interested in the elks or the moose or Sertoma, things like that," and that's really because we're forgetting to engage the younger population in the conversations that say, how do you want to help? How do you want to be a part of the community? Is this kind of a group and culture something that is important to you? And usually it is, but not in the same structured way that it was 50 years ago. So engaging them and figuring out what's important to them and what they would like to participate in is incredibly important. Also figuring out who your helpers and volunteers are in the community. Are they aging? Is it an older population? How do you start engaging younger populations? So much of that has to be built up because it's not always easy for older and younger generations to get along. Sometimes they have very different perspectives, but they both can learn from one another. So having someone come in to work and make sure that we're building bridges between the generations and making connections so that we can continue to build those social networks is incredibly important. Also something that U of I Extension works heavily on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, just making sure that we're thinking about all of the aspects and how they interplay.
Are the youth engaged in the community? You have your finger on the pulse there. What are you seeing with the youth?
um, Sometimes confusion.
Yeah.
They want to help. They want to be a part of the solution, but their approach is so different and unique to even people in my generation, the 40 somethings, definitely different than the 60 somethings. And so we have to let them speak and let their voices be heard. And honestly, you have to let people try and you have to let people fail. Failing is wonderful. And for some reason, we have started thinking that failing is horrible. But it's wonderful because if you're failing, you should be learning. So maybe you wanted to have a community event and you tried it. Well, what worked, what didn't work? And then really dig into the what didn't work and why, or how it could be tweaked and changed.
Yeah.
Youth can offer us a lot, and I think we always need to engage them and we need to let them try.
Yeah, it's really interesting that your response there is to hear them out and to allow them to try. Because as a younger person in a community, I couldn't feel more disconnected to the things going on. It's just because you feel out of the loop. You feel like that doesn't involve you because it is of an older generation. But I mean, at a certain point, my generation is going to have to pick up the slack there. So I'm interested to see how that's going to be handled. Really.
Your generation is not the generation that accepts the premise of, but this is how it's always been done. Your generation throws that premise out the door.
Interesting.
And so some of the older generations, they really adhere to that. This is how it's always been done. This is how we should continue it. And part of it is nostalgia, and part of it is that's how they were raised, lessons learned. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. But our culture and society has changed so much in the last 10, 20, 30 years that sometimes you do have to reinvent the wheel. And youth and younger adults, they can give a perspective and they can give us older generations help in really creating a community plan that will help rural America be successful.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, Valerie, thank you so much for that. I mean, it was a really interesting, thought-provoking conversation today. Oh, we're just out of time here. Can you name off your website, Illinois Extension, where people can go to?
So it's just web.extension.illinois.edu. And then you can look up by county and find Christian County and go on in there and kind of dig around and see what's available in your area.
Beautiful. Valerie, thank you so much for taking the time for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's Valerie Belusco. She's with the University of Illinois Extension as a community and economic development educator. My name has been Tim Zalabak. You have been listening to the WTIM Morning Show.
Your information station, WTIM.